Today's video is going to be over nested styles. Now, nested styles is one of the more advanced features in InDesign, but it is a great tool, especially when you're doing some complex work. And I'm going to show you just some of the advantages of it right now. I am going to show you how to set them up, then show you a couple of examples. Now, in the template that I've provided, the InDesign template I have provided, there is already one style set up that uses nested styles. And it is the first pair drop cap, which also includes the first pair drop cap 2. And if you go to the paragraph styles and go to first pair drop cap and then just click on edit just so you can see the style options for this, and click on drop cap and nested styles, which is midway towards the bottom. We have the top part, which is the drop cap information. So our drop cap is 3 lines, and we can easily change this to 2 lines. We can change it to 1, and you'll notice this D is changing right here. We can go back to 2, go back to 3, go back to increase it to 4, even do 5. We can do it 2 characters, which is what the drop cap 2 is for those cases where we have quotation marks at the beginning that also need to be accounted for. So this is the wonderful thing about drop caps. Now, you can't really, if you go here and change the font, it changes the font for the paragraph, not for the drop cap. To change the font for the drop cap, we would need to go into the character style drop cap to change it. So that's important to know. All right, nested styles is the next thing after the drop cap. So you'll see nested styles. It has the all caps character style applied to the first 3 words. So here you see the O and do, you define, that's all in caps. And this nested style is what is making that all in caps. So we could delete that and that goes away, okay? But I am going to undo that because we're going to play around with this. I'm going to show you how to update it. So let's say we wanted to change the font here and we wanted to change the font here. All right, so I am going to go with, so all caps is what those first 3 words are. So I'm going to go in and change the font to Gill, a font that I'm using in this book, Gill Sans Standard. I want it to be light. And you'll notice, you'll see that changing, and I may increase the tracking to about 50. And you'll see that increases a little bit. And you can tell it to do all caps, small caps, normal, but I'm going to keep the all caps. All right. And you can also change, this is light, so we can make it regular, so it's a little darker. Then you can make it bold. You can make it extra bold, which I would not do. That's way too bold. And then how about ultra bold? Definitely not. Shadowed, which I would not do. I would never do that. And then you've got some condensed versions as well. But right now, I'm just going to go with light. Okay. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change the drop cap. So let's go in. First of all, I'm going to show you what changing the drop cap to a script will do. All right. So we're just going to select this beloved script from, let's see, beloved script. All right, so here, all right, you'll see that our W actually drops down into the 4th line of the paragraph. Well, we don't want that. So you might say, oh, well, how can I change that? Well, you can go in and adjust the baseline and just bring it up 5 points or 7 points. But the thing is, each letter's descender is going to be different. So let me go back in and do that again. Beloved script. not all letters will fall on that same line. So if we adjust the baseline, we might have to adjust the baseline for every single letter, and we don't want to do that. So what we can do is go back into the paragraph style, that first pair drop cap, and when you're using a script, this is definitely something I recommend, you want to select this scale for descenders. And if you notice our D and our W here, it actually scaled it to where it did not come in contact with that fourth line of the paragraph. So that's what scaled for descenders means. Now, the descender part of a font is everything that's on that lower part of the font. So all of this and this part of the D. If you had one of those fonts that maybe had a swoosh coming out here and coming, maybe come down around, and I'll show you an example in a minute. This is not going to work. And then you're going to have to manually adjust it by letter, probably using the baseline shift. So a little bit of advice is to probably avoid those kind of fonts when it comes to drop caps, unless you want to do a manual adjustment every time. Okay, so now another thing, if you notice this W and the D is a little kind of tight with the font, with the main body text, so we're going to adjust that. But we don't do that in the paragraph style. We actually go back to the drop cap character style, and we're going to adjust the tracking from 30. We're going to try 100, and that gives it a little bit more breathing room. With certain scripts or certain fonts, you may even have to go up to 200. And then if you do use a script for a drop cap, you will probably need to manually adjust the tracking for each letter at the beginning of a chapter, because there's going to be tweaks that you need to make with script fonts. Now, if you use a sans serif or a serif font, you're not going to have to make that many tweaks, and in most cases you probably won't have to make any. So that's a little bit of information about the drop caps and nested styles. Now I am actually going to go in and change this drop cap to Gill Sans Light, because this is a font that I am actually using in this particular book. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you is a little bit more information on how we can utilize nested styles to create a cool chapter title feature. Okay, so I want this day, the day word, to be set in this Gill Sans Light, and then I want this number 2 to be set in a script. Let's see if I have the cover. This is the cover for this book, and so on the cover they have used Gill Sans Light as well as this script called Avalon. So I want the number to be in Avalon, and then I want the word day to be in this Gill Sans Light. So you might say, oh, that's going to require a lot of kind of special treatment, and you'll have to do each of those individually. But no, we can actually use nested styles to create that font treatment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the number 2, and I'm going to go ahead and set it to the font for that I want to use for the number, and I am going to increase it pretty large. Okay, I might increase it even more. And then I'm going to go ahead and set day to the Gill Sans Standard Light. I am going to set it to all caps. I'm actually going to increase the tracking by a good bit. And then I am actually going to adjust the baseline that day is sitting on to be visually what looks like about center of the 2. Okay, so now that we have both of those set the way I want them, what I'm going to do first is that this part, the day part, needs to be in a character style, and we're going to call that character style. I'm just going to call it day, just so we know. That's the word day. Make sure you apply style to selection and click on OK. And then what we're going to do is we are going to define the chapter title based on this right here. So I have this selected, and I am going to redefine my chapter title style based on that. All right, so what happened there? Oh, this is all a big mess. I know what happened. So if you notice over here, this is all of that Avalon, that brush font at 90 point, which was what this 2 was, but this increased. Well, it's because I did not set the character style to be this size, 22 by 24. So 22 points by the font size with 24 points line spacing. Typically, when you create a character style, it does not take in account the font size or the line spacing that you're telling it, okay? Because what a character style does is, it sets that one particular word that's in a paragraph to whatever you want. And typically, if you adjust the font size of the paragraph, you'll want to adjust any special character styles that are in it as well, the font size of that. So InDesign automatically doesn't default when you set a character style to that font size. So we need to tell it to set it to 22 points by 24 line spacing. All right, so now I'm going to go back and redefine that chapter title style, and now our day is staying the right size. Now this space right here, I'm actually going to decrease. I'm going to change it from a regular space to a thin space, and actually I may decrease it even more. And if you want to play around with spacing, avoid doing 2 spaces or no spaces. It's best to use these features under type, insert white space, and InDesign has all of these different types of spaces that vary in width. So I'm just going to use a hair space there, so that brings them together a little bit more. Now you say, well, yeah, day 2 looks great, but day 1 still looks like this. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a nested style. So here in the chapter title paragraph style option, we are going to go to drop cap and nested styles. We're going to do a new nested style. We are going to tell it to use the day character style that we built up, and we are going to tell it to do through the first word, and then we're going to click on OK, and bingo. Well, that looks like it worked, but why is this bold? Well, it's because there's also a bold character style applied to this line. So what we're going to do to get rid of that, and you'll see that our 2 changed. So we are going to see about clearing. Not quite sure. Oh, nope. There we go. All right, so good thing to note. I bet you this is going to mess up if we go in and change insert white space to a hair space. Yes, okay. So this is a good thing to know, that when we do character styles, when we do the nested style, and then we have these kind of weird spacing things, it's looking at this whole line as one word. So we need to tell the nested style to change it to something else. So we are going to say 3 characters. So that will take the whole day word. We actually may say 4 to include that space, and then we'll see what it does. All right, so there we go. That looks great. And this one has a bold applied to it, so I'm just going to turn off that bold. All right, now in looking at the other days throughout the book, you can see some of them. We're going to call this something different, so we don't need to worry about this one. You can see that they all have this bold applied, which we do not want. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a quick find and replace. We're going to find the chapter title with a bold character style, and we're going to replace it with no bold and chapter title. So we'll do a quick replace, change all, and there we go. That corrects all those issues. So all of these are already, ignore those, all of these are already formatted exactly as I want them. However, you will see that there is still a large space here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to run a grep search to replace that space after day with the space that the thin space. Okay, so to do that, so all of these will be uniform. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our find menu, and we're actually going to delete this and say find chapter title, and this is fine. And we are going to say day space, hold on just a second, day space. So up here we're going to do day space, and then down here we're going to say day, and then this caret, can't tell if that's a line or if that's an L. I think that is the line. Or you could always go to here, white space, hair space. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a change all, and that regular space has now been converted to a thin space. So everything looks the same. Okay. And that is how you can use nested styles to make some interesting title treatments. Now I'm going to show you another quick example of how you can use nested styles, and this really applies for complex nonfiction books. I like to do some special treatment in nonfiction books. For example, here is kind of like a block quote list, and the beginning of the block quote usually is like a header, you could almost say. And so you can use nested styles to call out these particular areas of a block quote. So I'm going to go to a couple of other ones. So here, see, this one was a period, and here, this one has a colon. And let's quickly scroll through. Here is another one that has a colon, and then this one has an M dash. So this book had, we had to create a lot of different styles, and I don't think I did it in this chapter. We had to create a lot of different styles to make all of these funny lists. Now you might say, well, why can't I just select this and tell it to do the sans serif font? And that's fine. But when you're formatting and you have these nested styles set up, it saves a lot of time from having to do that, because, let's see, I'm trying to find one where I actually did it. All right, so I think I started here. Nope. I didn't start doing this until halfway through the book, because at the time I didn't realize how many she had. So let us scroll. So do as I preach, not as I do. Okay, so here we go. All right, so you'll see this is set to block quote FL, first line, is what that means. Special period. Okay, so I always call this special because I have a character style set up called special bold. Okay, so these actually use, if we look at the nested style, it says use special bold through the first period. All right, so let's say this was a normal chapter text when you imported it in. So we're going to switch to this to chapter text. All right, so I'm formatting and I realize, oh, this is one of the block quote lists. Let's go ahead and, so you'll see example 2 is just regular chapter text. Let's go ahead and choose period, and bingo, it automatically adjusts. So that is the beauty of using nested styles, because you can set up different fonts and stuff in one single paragraph by using nested styles. And you can layer them multiple times. So go in and play around with nested styles. It really is a great tool.